The sun bled across the desert horizon as Ethan Cole rode west, his face streaked with dust and loneliness. He'd been traveling for weeks, chasing silence, chasing the idea that maybe somewhere beyond the endless plains, he could leave behind the ghosts that haunted him. The Civil War had taken everything, his brother, his home, and the light in his eyes. What remained was a man with a scarred hand and a heart turned to stone. Every hoofbeat of his weary horse echoed against the emptiness, a reminder of how far he'd come and how far he still was from peace. He didn't mean to find the hidden Apache village. In truth, he was only looking for water. The land stretched dry and cruel for miles, dotted with cacti and brittle sagebrush. When he saw a wisp of smoke rising from between the red cliffs, he hesitated, knowing it was dangerous to trespass. But his horse was staggering, and thirst was a stronger enemy than pride. He nudged the animal forward slowly, keeping his hands where any watcher could see them. The closer he came, the more he noticed the signs of life, tracks in the sand, the faint laughter of children, the smell of woodfire. Then, a sudden cry cut through the stillness. A woman's voice, sharp and desperate. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He spun toward the sound, hand on the revolver at his hip but not drawing it. Up the slope, two young men were trying to restrain a wild chestnut horse that had broken free from its line. A woman clung to the reins, her long hair whipping around her face, shouting something he couldn't understand. The horse reared, hooves thrashing the air, and she was thrown backward, hitting the ground hard. Ethan ran before he even thought about it. The world narrowed to dust and motion, the pounding of his boots, the wild snort of the horse, the flash of her frightened eyes. He grabbed the reins, jerking them down hard, speaking low and steady to calm the animal. "Easy there, boy, easy." The horse shuddered, nostrils flaring, then stilled. When Ethan let go, his hand was bleeding from where the rope had burned it. He turned to the woman on the ground. She was sitting up slowly, breathing hard, her wrist bent at an odd angle. Her skin was copper-toned, her features proud and striking, framed by long black hair streaked with dust. But it was her eyes that held him still, dark, fierce, and searching, as if they'd known him long before that moment. "You," she whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan frowned. "You all right, ma'am? You took quite a fall." Her gaze never left his face. "You are the man from my dream." He blinked. "Pardon." She pointed to his left hand, and he realized she was staring at the faint burn scar that ran across his palm, a memory of the night his ranch went up in flames. She reached out, gently tracing the scar with her fingers, reverent, almost afraid. "The spirits showed me this mark," she murmured. "You came from the east. A man with pain in his heart and fire in his hand. You would come when the storm horse rose. I dreamed of you for many nights." Ethan stepped back slightly, uncertain whether she was fevered or mad. "Miss, I think you've got the wrong fella. I'm just passing through." Before she could answer, several villagers approached, men with wary eyes and spears in hand, women carrying baskets, children peeking from behind their mothers' skirts. They surrounded him cautiously, speaking in low tones. One of the older men, tall and solemn, stepped forward and spoke in halting English. "You came from far land. She say she dream of you." Ethan nodded slowly. "Seems that way, but..." The elder turned to the woman, who spoke rapidly in Apache, gesturing toward Ethan, her words filled with urgency. The elder listened, then faced Ethan again. "Her name is Naylin. She is daughter of the healer. Her dreams are sacred. When a woman dreams of a man who saves her, it is sign of destiny. You are her chosen one. By sacred law, she is your wife now." Ethan felt the blood drain from his face. "Now hold on. I just stopped a runaway horse. I didn't mean no disrespect her." But the old man raised a hand. "Spirit world chooses. We do not question." Ethan turned to Naylin. Her face was calm, but her eyes shimmered with emotion. "If you refuse," she said softly, "they will say I lied to the spirits. They will cast me out." He stared at her, at the quiet dignity in her voice, the hint of fear behind her strength. He could see she wasn't manipulating him, she was pleading, torn between belief and survival. He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck, his voice low and tired. "All right, I'll stay, for a little while, at least. Until this makes some kind of sense." The elder nodded, satisfied, and the others stepped back. Naylin's shoulders loosened with relief, and for the first time, she smiled faintly, a small, shy thing that stirred something in Ethan's chest. The tribe welcomed him with caution but no hostility. They gave him water, food, and a place by the fire. That night, Under a sky glittering with stars, Ethan sat among them, silent but watchful. Naylin sat across the flames from him, her wrist bandaged, her hair tied loosely behind her shoulders. She spoke softly, telling him of her people's ways, how dreams were not fantasies but messages from the spirit world, how every vision carried meaning. Her voice was like the low murmur of a river, steady and calm. He listened, though part of him resisted. He was a man of reason, a man who'd seen too much death to believe in signs and omens. Yet something about her made him doubt his certainty. The way she looked at him wasn't with fear or gratitude, it was recognition. As if she truly believed he had stepped out of her dreams. When she spoke of the man in her vision, her words echoed eerily close to his own life. A traveler scarred by fire. A soul heavy with grief. A man searching for something he didn't yet understand. Later, when the fires dimmed and the tribe retreated into their shelters, Ethan lay on his bedroll, staring at the night sky. Coyotes called from far off, their howls blending with the sighing wind. He turned his hand in the starlight, studying the pale scar across his palm. He remembered her touch, how she had traced it as though it meant something divine. He should have felt trapped, confused, maybe even angry. But instead, he felt something else, a strange calm, a whisper of belonging he hadn't known in years. Maybe it was her eyes, or the quiet acceptance of the tribe, or the way the desert seemed to breathe with ancient life. Whatever it was, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that he was no longer running. And when he closed his eyes, he dreamed of a woman standing in firelight, her hand reaching for his, her voice soft as the wind. "You're the man I saw in my dreams," she whispered again. "By sacred law, you are now my husband." The words echoed deep inside him, stirring something he had buried long ago, the faint, dangerous hope that maybe destiny had not forgotten him after all. Ethan woke to the sound of drums in the distance, slow and rhythmic, echoing through the canyon like a heartbeat. The sun was just rising, spreading a golden wash across the red cliffs that surrounded the village. He had spent nearly 2 weeks among Naylin's people, and each day chipped away at the wall he had built around his heart. He had started to learn their ways, how to listen more than speak, how to move with the land instead of against it. But the one thing he couldn't seem to understand was why Naylin looked at him as though his arrival had changed the course of her life. That morning, she brought him food, roasted corn and dried meat wrapped neatly in cloth. "You work with the men today," she said softly, handing him the bundle. "They build a new shelter near the cliffs. My uncle says your hands are strong." Ethan chuckled, glancing at his scarred palm. "Stronger than they look." She smiled faintly, her eyes glimmering like early dawn. "The spirits do not choose weak men." Her words hung in the air long after she left. Every time she spoke of spirits or destiny, it stirred something uneasy in him. He had stopped believing in destiny the night his home burned down and his brother died saving him. Yet here, in this quiet valley untouched by the noise of the outside world, he began to wonder if perhaps fate was more than just a word. The days passed with a strange rhythm, hunting trips, work beneath the sun, laughter shared around the evening fires. The young men of the tribe began to accept him, teaching him their tongue in fragments, while the elders observed him from a distance. Naylin was often nearby, helping her mother grind herbs for medicine, weaving baskets, or teaching the children songs. She had a calmness about her, yet also a wild, untamed fire. The kind of spirit that refused to bow even when life demanded it. One evening, after the day's work, Ethan found her sitting by the stream that cut through the valley, her bare feet trailing in the cool water. He hesitated before joining her, his boots crunching softly over the sand. She didn't look up right away. "The water carries stories," she said quietly. "My mother says if you listen closely, you can hear the past." Ethan sat beside her, resting his elbows on his knees. "What do you hear?" She tilted her head slightly, her dark hair catching the last light of sunset. "I hear my father's voice. He died when I was young. I dream of him sometimes. He tells me to be strong, to trust the visions. That's how I knew you were real. When I saw you in the dream, he stood behind you and said, 'He carries fire but not destruction. He will heal what is broken.'" Ethan swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. "I don't know much about healing," he said. "Seems like everything I touch turns to ash." Naylin turned to him, her gaze steady and kind. "Not this place. Not me." There was a silence between them then, filled with the soft trickle of water and the faraway cry of a hawk. For the first time in years, Ethan felt seen. Not as a drifter or a broken soldier, but as something more, a man who still had purpose, even if he couldn't name it. But peace never lasted long in the frontier. A few days later, a scout returned breathless, his face pale with fear. The word spread quickly through the camp. Soldiers were coming from the east, setting up near the canyon. They were miners, the scout said, digging where sacred ground lay. The tribe was angry, frightened. There had been too many promises broken by the white men before, too many deaths. Ethan knew what was coming. He'd seen it before, fear turning to violence, misunderstanding turning to blood. He tried to warn them. If they think you're armed or hostile, they'll shoot first and ask questions later, he said to the council. The elder listened but shook his head. We will not run from our land. The soldiers have no right to take what belongs to the spirits. That night, the village was restless. Fires burned low, voices whispered in worry. Ethan found Nayland standing outside her tent, arms crossed tightly over her chest, eyes gleaming in the flickering light. You should leave, she said suddenly, her tone trembling. When the soldiers come, they will not understand why you are here. They will call you a traitor for standing with us. I've run enough in my life, Ethan replied quietly. Not this time. She looked up at him then, her expression caught between fear and gratitude. If you stay, they may kill you. Then I'll die doing something that matters, he said. Maybe that's what your spirits were trying to tell me. At dawn, the soldiers came, a dozen men in blue coats, rifles gleaming in the sun. They rode in hard, dust rising around them, eyes sharp with suspicion. Ethan recognized their insignia. He'd worn it once himself. His chest tightened as he saw the man leading them, Captain Avery, a name he hadn't spoken in years. Cole, Avery called out, disbelief twisting his face. What in hell are you doing here? You with these people? Ethan stepped forward slowly, hands raised in peace. I'm not with anyone, Avery. I'm trying to stop a fight before it starts. These folks just want to live in peace. The land you're digging on, it's sacred to them. The captain laughed bitterly. You've lost your damn mind. You siding with savages now. I'm siding with what's right, Ethan said evenly. You and I both know how this goes. Don't make me watch it happen again. The standoff stretched tight as a drawn bow. Behind Ethan, he could feel Nayland's presence, her hand trembling against the back of his arm. Around them, the tribe waited, men with spears, women clutching their children. The air was heavy, one heartbeat away from violence. Ethan looked into the captain's eyes, searching for a flicker of the man he once knew. Avery, I saw too many men die for nothing. Don't let that happen here. There's no honor in killing the innocent. For a long, painful moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, the captain lowered his rifle. You always were a fool for lost causes, he muttered. We'll pull out, but I hope to God you know what you're doing. When the soldiers turned their horses and rode away, the tension broke. The tribe erupted in murmurs of relief and disbelief. Ethan turned to find Nayland staring at him, tears glistening in her eyes. She stepped forward and touched his cheek, her fingers trembling. The dream was true, she whispered. You were meant to come. You were meant to save us. Ethan covered her hand with his own. Maybe I didn't save anyone. Maybe I just found something worth fighting for. That night, as the stars spilled across the vast black sky, they sat together near the dying fire. Nayland leaned her head against his shoulder, and he felt the quiet rise and fall of her breath. Around them, the village was peaceful again, laughter returning, songs rising softly into the night air. For the first time in as long as he could remember, Ethan felt the weight of his past begin to lift. The desert no longer looked empty, it looked alive, filled with meaning. He realized then that maybe destiny wasn't something you waited for, maybe it was something you found when you finally stopped running. And as Nayland whispered his name against the stillness, he knew that the dream she had seen wasn't just hers anymore. It was theirs, written by the wind, bound by sacred law, and sealed by the hearts of two people who had found love where neither expected it to grow.